Hi there, Maria here from KUHN RIKON. Today I'm going to go into some real detail about how to maintain your pressure cooker. So the KUHN RIKON DUROMATICs are fantastic quality. They are all Swiss made, and the body, so everything that is stainless steel on the main body and the lid, will last you 50 years or so, decades we're talking, if properly cared for. And all of the parts are replaceable. So every few years, you might see some wear and tear on a particular part, and that individual part you can purchase on our website. So today, I'm going to go over how to actually change each individual part and the tools that you'll need. So really, for full maintenance of your pressure cooker at home, you will need these three tools, and they should cover the bases. So we've got a Phillips screwdriver. We've got an Allen key, or it doesn't have to have the screwdriver on the end, by the way. It just needs to be an Allen key that is going to be used to kind of secure something rather than actually open anything. So, and then these are really actually vital. You can use long nose pliers, but this is the best bent nose pliers, which you can purchase in most DIY stores, DIY shops. So those are the three tools that we're going to be using. These are some parts that I'm going to show you a bit later of the wear and tear that can happen to the parts, so how you know if they really need replacing. If you're not comfortable doing all of this at home, then we do offer a free service. You would return your cooker to us via post. If it's outside of warranty, then we just charge a postage fee. The normal post will do. Once we receive that, we will be doing everything that you'll see me do today in our head office, and then we will just let you know what parts need replacing, and you can decide, yes, you'd like to purchase those, we can replace them and send it back. So the actual labour of testing and checking what needs to be done is free of charge. So that's an option, but if you really want to care for all the little nitty-gritty bits, then keep watching. So here we have two of our pressure cookers. This one is an Inox long-handled. This one is a Neo short-handled. You can see they've got slightly different valve housings, but functionally they are exactly the same. The handle and the housing is slightly different, but when it comes to caring for them, it's going to be exactly the same instructions. So let's talk a little bit first about the valve. This is the business end of where you are engaging with the cooker in terms of seeing the pressure inside. And we have something called the valve stem, which is this section with the two bars on it. Now, on top of the valve stem is the cap, which is a little black button. Now, some people at home might find that their pressure cooker just isn't coming to pressure. And the easiest thing to check is whether your cap is on tight enough. Because what can happen over time is that the cap becomes loose. Only the cap becomes loose. Now, the easiest way to test this is to take the lid off, pull the stem as far up as you possibly can, pinch the stem, and then re-tighten the cap like so. If you just twist the cap, all you're doing is twisting the valve stem as a whole, and you're not actually tightening anything. So the easiest thing and the first step that I would always recommend is double checking. Now, on the bottom, you can see that there's the bottom of the stem, which is the little red screw. That moves up and down. If I push that with my finger, I can kind of secure it up a little bit. That gives me enough leverage to then pull the valve up all the way, pinch firmly, and then screw tightly. Likewise, if you are going to need to replace the valve stem, let's say, for example, you've noticed, or it's been a few years, let's be honest, these things shouldn't need replacing under like a few years. So when someone calls me up and says it's not reaching pressure, the first thing I say is, how old is the pressure cooker? If it's only 6 months old, the likelihood is it's a tightening issue. You're going to want to tighten that screw and do some of the other tests that I talk about when it comes to just tightening up the seals. If it's been a few years, decades, sometimes even, it may well need replacing. Now, a valve that looks like it needs replacing is going to have some wear and tear to it. So maybe it's discolored a little bit. Maybe there's lime scale on it. Maybe there's food stuck in it. But over time, potentially that wear and tear will lead to it needing replacing. Things that you can do to extend the life of these small parts, like the valve stem, is take them out and soak them in lemon juice or something acidic, or even lime scale remover. So these are the things that can get clogged over time. Now I'm going to take the valve stem out, so this will show you exactly how you would do that. Let's say you have purchased a valve stem and you want to replace it yourself, which is absolutely fine. So we know that pulling up is going to allow us to grip the stem itself, and lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Hopefully sometimes you can just screw that off like so. I'm pinching really quite firmly and I'm just screwing the black cap completely off. So by hand, that is one option. Now, you might find that actually you can't get a good grip, or that it's just not coming off when you're pinching the stem valve. In that case, what you can do is turn it over and just use a little screwdriver or something to secure that still. And then you can actually hold it up instead of having to pinch it and unscrew that way. Usually, pinching the stem valve is enough, but if you're not really getting a good grip, then you've got a screwdriver option. So I'm going to do that again because I'm going to take the valve completely out this time, and you're going to see what happens when you take the valve completely out, and also to be really mindful of the cheeky little spring. So I would recommend, I mean, you can just let it drop onto the counter. Now look, see, no valve in there anymore, a little hole, and here you have your cap and your stem, and most importantly, your spring. Now, the spring comes loose. Really important that you don't lose that. So let's say you have purchased your new valve stem, you're going to replace into the spring and then return it. Let's just compare for you the old, like an old used stem valve, which is discolored, to a new, brand new one. So you can see there's some wear and tear on the top, whereas that's completely new. You can see there's some discoloration, wear and tear to the middle, whereas that's completely new, and also the screw section there. So those are the different colors, discoloration, and then popping your new one in, spring goes on, lovely, lovely. And then you are going to go screw side first, because that is the bit that's going to secure your cap. You should see the red underside there. Use your finger just to hold, actually. Your finger can just hold it while you secure the black cap, just there. And then you are going to repeat your little test of pulling it all the way up, pinch, and then really securely on. And that is how you replace the stem valve. You can also purchase new caps. You can purchase new springs that go around the stem valve as well. So, stem valve replacement. On our lid, another thing that could possibly need replacing is the central valve. This is the central valve of an older one which has some discoloration and needed replacing. Let me show you where it is and how that would be done. So first, the valve housing needs to come off, which you really should always be removing when you're cleaning it anyway. So if you're not doing that, get into the habit of taking that off when you're cleaning it, in the same way that you would remove the gasket to clean it. So those are the two bits that on a regular basis you should be taking off and putting back on. Now the central valve, you can see from that section there, is this silver disc sits around the stem inside. Now this is where I would say specialist equipment in terms of having a pair of bent nose pliers. Many people might not have that in their home, but they're not expensive. And if you do just want to check your central valve yourself, you'll need a bent nose pliers and your Allen, woo, it's a lively one. You'll need bent nose pliers and your Allen key. Now we're very lucky, we've had this one for a few years with the screwdriver end, just makes it a little easier to hold. It's not necessary. Let me show you why. So we want the disc of the central valve to come off. So this Allen key is purely going to go in there just to stop the central part from spinning, and means that you twisting is doing nothing. Then I am securing this with my hand down here, as you can see. We're going to get a nice strong grip, and you're going to go lefty-loosey to take it off. Now, for some of you, you may actually find that this disc will turn just with your hands, and you might never need that. However, to re-secure it, and long term, I would recommend having a pair of the bent nose pliers. And the way that I was doing that is by gripping and turning. Okay, and so that is how you are going to undo the lower part of your central valve. Now that I'm using my hands, I'm going to go under and hold that bit still, and then I can continue to loosen here. So if I was only replacing the central valve, then I don't need to mess with my internal stem at all, and it can all come out as one. So that is quite nice. You can see, obviously, if you're going to do a deep, deep clean, you would take all these parts out, soak them in lemon juice, and then you've just got your really nice Swiss manufactured, Swiss engineered lid. So let's compare a new central valve to one that needed replacing. So that is the ring there, just because the ring is on and it looks a little different. These might be really new parts to you you've never seen before. So obviously you can see this is lime scale, potentially food buildup, where if the cooker was over full, then the food will bubble up and through, and there might be some residue there. So if that does happen, it might be an idea to take it all apart, give it a good clean inside and out. But these parts should last years. There's another little section that we do replace, which is, there's a black disc here. It is a silicone washer, and it is called the valve seal. Now, yeah, see, that's got so much limescale, I can't even get that disc off. So that is one that really, really definitely needed maybe more maintenance, or maybe you just need replacing. Whereas this one is looking lovely and clean. So to replace your central valve, make sure that the button is on the up side of the lid. Obviously, that's the bit you want to see. And then make sure that you're holding it nice and flat. So when you're holding it flat, you can start with your hands, just replacing that disc there. But really, to be honest, I would recommend that you do tighten it with your pliers. And so I'm just giving it a few extra twists with my pliers. There we go. So now that one is back on. Now the third little bit here that you can see is an SI valve. Here is an old one that needs replacing. Here is a new one, so you can see. You can see that obviously it's discolored. The silicone is maybe tough. It's not as pliable as this one. It might have shrunk, which means that it won't create a full seal. And the way that you're going to replace your SI valve, which is found here, there it is with its little button. And on the underside, it looks like that. Now, if you have been advised that your SI valve is what needs replacing, or if you can see that it's an issue, please, I would recommend keep your current SI valve in the lid until you receive your new one, because you're going to need to remember which way up the SI valve goes back in. So don't start doing any changes until you've got the new one posted and delivered to you. You're then going to start to work with them in front of you, because even myself can get confused with which way up. Okay, now this one, hopefully you can do just with your fingers, or you can use the end of like a flat-ended screwdriver, something like that. And it's just going to be a push. You're just going to come into the SI valve here and you're going to push, wiggle and push. So there. So that just popped out. Okay. Now in order to replace it, you are going to take your new one and pop it back in. Use your hand. Now use your hands, but use the outer edge of the silicone rather than pushing the middle. You're going to get a better result by pushing the outer edge of the silicone. And then what you can do is just from the top side, give it a little wiggle to seat it and make sure that it is in fully, but also nice and flat. Now I'm quite happy with that. So we've replaced pretty much everything that you can in the valve area. You would replace your valve housing. You could then pop your gasket back in and get ready to cook for years to come. Okay, so the final replacement parts that you can purchase and that you can replace would be the handles of the lid and the handles of the base. Previously, I'd been working on the inox to show you all the valve replacements. I'm just going to show you this on our Neo range, but it's very much the same story. For this, you're going to take your gasket out. You only need a screwdriver, and it is very straightforward in that you're just going to loosen the screws of the handle. Now, the little blue buttons that you see here, these are sold separately. So if you do need new ones of those, they will be sold slightly separately. So if you buy a new handle, don't assume that the blue button is going to come with it. It's separate. Okay, so that is how the handle comes off. Okay, you've got your 2 screws there. Boop, boop. Oh. Obviously, all these parts, just be careful. You've got to keep them, don't lose them when you're doing all of this work. And I just want to show you one quick thing, which is these are sold separately, okay? And also, when you are placing the new handle back in, it is very much that the handle takes the locking mechanism and then that goes in. We sometimes have cases of people trying to reassemble by placing the spring this side and it won't fit, obviously. Also, having said that, there is a bit of a specific shape to the blue locking mechanism. And you'll see, if I had enough hands, there's quite a specific shape. I would call it a smiley face. So you've just got to line those up when you're replacing. And once you've got them lined up, then your screws will fit very nicely. Like that. And like that. And you can use your screwdriver again to secure. So we've learned how to pretty much maintain the whole lid. We're just going to do the base handles, how to remove and replace those. And again, it's a screwdriver job, Phillips head. So for this one, the screws are actually found underneath. And you might find it easier to do this whole process with the base upside down like so that you can get to the screws themselves. One handle and its screw. And then obviously to pop that back on, there is actually a cheeky bracket. So this is why we did this upside down, because that cheeky bracket will fall if you do it the right way up, and there's a risk of losing it. But also, when replacing your new one, you really have to do it upside down, otherwise that's not going to stay on. So upside down is the way to go when replacing the base handles. Make sure you have your bracket, slides on like that. Make sure you have your new handles and just be mindful of which way up they go. You should see the divot because that is where the fingers go to lift. Okay, so handle goes on like so. You hold that, and then you've got your screw, which is going to go in, and you can secure like this. So you don't need a huge amount of complicated equipment, truth be told, and the better you know your pressure cooker, the better maintained it will be, the longer life it will have, and you'll start to just understand the kind of maintenance that really keeps it in good nick. And we have people handing theirs down to their grandchildren. So maintain your cooker and it will last you for decades.